Hey, Tsipora. Welcome to my space. I'm just waiting for people to join.
And keep like doing stuff, I'll just sit and wait till I hear people talk.
Mm-hmm. You can repost the space. I just did. Like you said, there's a problem with the notifications. Hey, Ram.
Hi, G.
Yeah, I'm just reading the story, the news here. There's a story, an article. Was also yesterday that there was a. It's a joke. It just shows you what this cult is about. I see Justin giving him the mic. Okay, so we're going to talk part 2 from yesterday about the Israeli-Iran, Lebanon, U.S. Uh, what's going on with the geopolitics and everything. So I'm just looking at the news. As you know, that I told you yesterday that our forces have the Bufol, the fortress, and right now they're working underneath it. Who knows what's underneath it? Because as we all know, what happened in Gaza can happen anywhere, tunnels. So right now our soldiers are checking it. Yeah, oh boy. See the picture. Yep, tunnels as well in the north. So this is the people that we're supposed to have ceasefire. The word ceasefire, people have to understand, ceasefire never lasts. Ceasefire is not good, just basically postponing things. Like we say in Hebrew, after the cease, there's always a fire. So you cannot have a ceasefire, and they're the ones who stopped, who violated the ceasefire 2 days ago, and even today at 2 o'clock Israel time, because we know what they want, what they're after. And how can you have peace or ceasefire with people that I see? I'm going to send you to a picture of a tunnel. You have to see the tunnel. And this tunnel is in the north. Justin, did you get the mic?
Sorry, is there a delay? I think it's okay now, right?
Oh, now I can see you as a speaker. You were a listener before. Yeah, I just took a picture of the tunnel. I'm putting it there. I'm naming it Maglan and Dialom. These are brigades. Horses. In the underground depth of Fort Beaufort. It's in the north. Okay. Sent. Can you see the tunnel?
I'm looking at it right now. So let me first. Sorry, I don't want to be rude. Let me greet Ram, Tipora, Poppy. Great to see you guys, and great to be here. Thanks again for hosting. So we've got the. You say the tunnels in the north. Hezbollah is no different from what happened in Gaza. Same thing. You have the Gaza above ground, you have the Gaza below ground, and Lebanon is the same. I think what makes it difficult is that it's all bedrock, so the ground is very rocky terrain there, and I think this is what makes it difficult. But it's no surprise, and especially to find out that Beaufort Castle, the old Crusader castle that they occupied, Hezbollah, that the Hezbollah occupied, that they would use it as an ammo cache and basically a site of terror against Israel. I remember reading a story in Arut Sheva a few years back. It was the first time I was reading about these things, where Israelis in the north were reporting that they heard noises underground in their bathrooms, underneath their bathtubs. And they called the army, and the army came, and they literally found terrorists tunneling from Lebanon underneath their houses. Some of these tunnels 1.5 to 2 kilometers long. So it's no surprise. You know, these people are the same no matter where they are. And I wondered to myself, if I don't want to get too far ahead of myself in this, but you wonder what it's like in Europe or in America, you know, whether the terrorist cells that are operating there, whether there's tunnels underneath those cities that the West doesn't even know about yet. So that's kind of that's the entry point, I suppose.
I like what Utsli says. These are weapons of war. This territory is weapons of war, and you are seizing it from them so that they will not have this weapon of war, this territory, this land, and they will never get it back. I like that.
Yes, this is the only way to beat Muslims. And I'm saying Muslims. Here they call them Arabs, but Muslims. If you want to beat them, you have to take their land. You take land. They need to understand, because the land for them is everything. Like, if you want to talk about something else, let's talk into where they are in Europe, you know, where they in Australia, when they're in New York, the way that they come to conquer. If you've noticed that they go and they pray in the streets, they go and they have mosque, because the mosque means this land belongs to Islam. When they are pray outside, they're like marking their territory. You have to take the land. You have to conquer it. You have to take it. This is ours. So I'm reading what Netanyahu is saying to the CNBC. There is an interview, and he's saying, let me quote, I'm translating as I go. He says, Iran hasn't agreed yet to take out the nuclear weapon, and it's playing with fire. Basically, Iran lets Trump to decide whether to go back to military action. He's saying Europe doesn't have the balls to stand up and defend our civilization, which is true. He's also saying, another quote of his, Iranians always lie. You have to find a way to get out the enriched uranium. Trump believes he can do this in negotiating with them. We have to give him a chance. That's what he's saying. And we have to promise that Iran doesn't have a nuclear plant, that is not it is not being another threat on Israel and on the states. And then regarding to Trump, he's saying, even the best family, there is slightly disagreements, but there's no change in their relationship. He respects me and I respect him. And if we want peace between Israel and Lebanon, we have to disarm Hezbollah. And he's saying the majority of the terrorists hurt Israel are in Beirut. He's saying that Iran is it's weaker. Israel has never been stronger. Iran has never been weaker. And he said they're weak, but it's not over yet, which is basically, it's like running, all these sayings are like running in a row. So I'm reading this to you. And he says Trump and him they talk every 2 days. and there's a lot of work to do.
I don't know why. I don't know
There's a
why.
lot of work. Let me tell you, listen, listen, you don't know. It can be a game, you know. Iranians are lying, so we can also, because it's all tactics. This is politics. Sometimes, you know, you have to be smart to see the real picture. But in this case, I don't like it that they put this thing about Lebanon that you cannot hurt, you cannot bomb Beirut. I think for every bomb that they send us, for every drone that they send us, and the last 2 days were like hectic, you know, if you have the app, um, Beirut should be bombed. That's the way it should be. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Imagine going all the way for a couple of years, going all the way to Berlin. Imagine going all the way to Berlin and withdrawing. Imagine that. In Lebanon, when we said, back in my day, when we said Arab, we meant Muslim. That's what we meant by Arab. The way I say it about Trump is Trump stuck a blade down Israel's throat, down all of our throats. We don't know whether to spit or to swallow. We don't know which one hurts more.
Guys, what do you think? Any thoughts? Thank you. If I read correctly, the Midget's Bar Stool, thank you for praying for Israel. Thank you so much. Okay, since we are not Muslim, so I'll give Tzipora. She's going to be first. Okay, Justin?
Is Justin Muslim?
No, I'm just...
We all are.
no, we're not. We're not. We're normal. Yeah. Tzipora, yes, go ahead.
So what you were saying, Ram, about Trump, I have, you know, war is horrible and it's very disappointing, all of it, and it's frightening and it's scary and it's kind of easy for me to say all the way over here from Australia. But I do understand somewhat that war is something we have to be a bit patient with in a way, because we want it now. I mean, if you think all the way back to World War II, you know, the family would gather in front of their wireless, which is what we called radios then, and listen to the very, very halting, slow speech. You know, he didn't speak like that in real life, I'm assuming, Winston Churchill, but because it was so bad, you know, the technology was so slow, um, of the Prime Minister. And we weren't getting tweets every day back then. Not we, I wasn't alive then, but there were no tweets every day. There weren't constant updates. There was no permanent news. There was none of this. And I think that we've come to expect things now. And because we are so outraged and frightened, we really want Donald Trump, because he is the only person in the world really, like, you know, with all enough power to do this, to do it yesterday, to do it a year ago already, you know? But I think that we just need to trust him, because this could start World War III, which he doesn't want. He is a peaceful man, I think. But that it could start World War III unless he is extremely surgical. And if you think that he and Bibi aren't completely in bed together, I think you need to rethink that decision in your mind. Not you, Ram, necessarily, but anyone that does. I think that they are very carefully planned this, as much as anyone can plan something like this with all the moving parts. But, you know, we don't know what's going to happen, but I do have complete faith that Donald Trump is doing his absolute best to minimize casualties and to just yeah, he wants to get them too. I'm pretty sure of it. But I would love to hear more thoughts.
We
Yes.
all, we all, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Ram. One thing is for sure, President Trump, we love him. We all love him in Israel. My guess, he doesn't want to put forces on the ground, boots on the ground, because let me tell you, once he does with Hog Island, Iranians don't care if they lose their oil as long as they are going to bomb, Americans. So he's worried. He doesn't want any soldier to lose his life. That's my guess. And we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see. By the way, a second ago, sorry, Justin, breaking news. IDF and Judea and Samaria border guard forces thwarted an attempt to smuggle weapons on the eastern border. That means with Jordan. Okay, so I'm reading. IDF forces in Judea and Samaria border guard thwarted an attempt to smuggle weapons in the eastern border during the night. Fighters from the Metilan unit of the Judean Samaria border guard and forces of the Valley and Valleys Brigade under the direction of female observers from Battalion 909, searched near the eastern border fence and located a bag containing 10 pistols and cartridges. I see the picture here. The weapons that were located were transferred for investigation to the Israel's police district. Yeah. So somebody put a bag there, and this is the border with Jordan. Justin?
Oh, thanks, Om. So I think Ram and Zipporah made some really, really good points. Ram made the excellent point about the Berlin, stopping short of Berlin, turning your army around the moment you were sort of at victory's door. And I think this is basically what's happened when Trump and Netanyahu basically entered to tackle Iran. They could have basically kept the pressure up and really, really done some significant damage, well beyond what they did do to Iran. And then, Iran shifted the goalposts by threatening the world with the Strait of Hormuz, with the oil. And I think that, from that perspective, this is where I think Trump started putting the brakes on and slowing things down. And it became very difficult. I'm sorry to ask this mid sentence. I'm really going to have to come back to you. I just need to deal with something after 2 seconds. Sorry, I will come back in a second.
Zipporah, the background, we all felt that Trump is the great savior, and we supported him in every way, and we never disagreed. We understood that there are strategies behind the scenes, and that we had faith in everyone's understanding of the matter. Trump was inaugurated after saying help is on the way several times to Israel, given that how the Biden administration and the Democrats treated Israel in the aftermath of October 7th. Trump kept saying help is on the way, help is on the way. So we dumped our faith in that he will see Israel through this, and that this, from everyone's understanding, I think, everyone's understanding is that this had to be the final war for Israel's survival, that there should not be a next one, because the next one is definitely not survivable. As it is with this one, there was a great miracle on that day that Hezbollah didn't attack on the same day as Hamas did. Otherwise, Israel would have been in deep, deep trouble. So this inauguration, he announces some Witkoff. No one's ever heard of him. No one knows anything about him. He announced him to go to Qatar for a deal about the hostages. After his bluff was called with Hamas, he kept saying if they're not released, by the time he's sworn in, that there will be hell to pay and all of the rest of it. So that was a hint that he would want to go for a deal to Qatar about the hostages. Fine, it was a difficult situation, very difficult. We didn't disagree. And then Israel attacked Iran in June, and Israel set Iran back in a big, big way. They didn't see it coming. They don't know what hit them. They were scattering out of there. There were stories about them fleeing out of there to Canada, to Europe, to wherever else. They were rushing out of there. Israel hit them really, really hard. And then Trump announces a deal, and the hostages came home. And then he wanted Israel to stop, and he uttered the words about Israel, they don't know what the fuck they're doing, which was totally inappropriate, totally bullshit. And with the surrounding all of this was the talk of Jews and Israel from Trump's people, the MAGA people, Bannon and Tucker Carlson and all them. That is the infrastructure of Trump, actually. That did not, I don't know if that happened in a vacuum, that these people became renegades and against Trump all of a sudden, or, which I suspect, they were the other face of Trump, if I can say it this way, that he would let them do this to, I don't know what it is. Trump had been two-faced about Israel. And then the way he played, he's an ego guy. So the way he played the attack that he helped with Israel with the mountains over there, of destroying the nuclear facilities. He played it up to the hilt, to the hilt, to the hilt. He played it up to the hilt, and then to accept indignity, to accept a plane from Qatar, and the way he played it out, the way he explained it, the way he whatever, it's just indignant to be doing this with Qatar. We have known Qatar as the poison of the king. The Qatar was the facilitator of all of this terrorism against Israel. To be doing all of this, one thing after the other, and we hear that he swears at Israel, he swears at Netanyahu, then he says he loves Bibi, and then all of these things, they rack up. They didn't happen. All of these didn't come from nowhere. They came not from a vacuum. There's something there. The something there is probably duplicity. Duplicity from Trump himself, not the surrounding people. From Trump himself. I don't know what game he's playing. It's a double game. And this is the final straw this time. This is the final straw. What he just said about Bibi Netanyahu is just too much. It's too much. The conduct of war is not this way. It's not this way. You say there's strategy. Yeah, okay, fine. We agree that there's strategy and patience and all of that. But from the get-go, you misunderstood the whole fucking situation. Not you, ZP. Trump, I'm talking about. He misunderstood the situation, the predicament that Israel was in. He misunderstood it. If he ever cared, actually. If he ever cared. If he wasn't concerned with his own ego and with his own words and with his own how he looks it's about him. It's about him. What does he matter to all of this? You know,
Ram, it can be,
it's
it's
too much.
50-50. Listen, either he's playing a game like they do, okay, because it's not easy to start a war again. Remember that he has to do with the 60-day thing, or either he's clueless. Like we know that he had an interview with Fox with Laura Trump, and he said that they didn't hit the army of Iran because they think that they're moderate. And this was, sorry to say, I could laugh. Yeah, so I will let Zipporah speak again, but before that, midgets. The other day we had a very important podcast. Okay, check my timeline. You'll see a link to my YouTube channel. As you know, I don't know if you know, I expose scammers pretending to be IDF soldiers. You follow 2 of them. I give their advice how to check. You follow 2. Okay? I just checked your account. So please go to my timeline, see the link. One of them, it says like about scammers, and check your following followers. The same women, they're not from Israel. They say they're from Israel. They're from Africa. Okay. Zipporah, yes.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying, the first half as in 50-50 about Donald Trump. I do think that, I think actually he's protecting Israel. I know that sounds completely crazy, but this is, I mean, look, Israel has nukes and will use them and should use them should they ever have to. But no one wants that. Nobody, well, maybe some of us do, but no one wants all that destruction and all the just the impact of that. I really do think that everyone has to tread so carefully. Ram, you would know more than I do that the Middle East is a basket case and that there are so many hot-tempered people there, and that Iran and all them, Qatar, they have these crazy allies, the axis of evil or whatever we call them. That it's just, I think it has to be done really, really carefully. And all this, oh, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. Bibi and all this. I think that's just to kind of confuse the enemy. I really, really do have faith in that. I mean, like you know that Mossad and all the intelligence agencies must be getting so much info we don't know about. They're hardly going to reveal their hand, and they're just going to keep playing the confusion game. They have to. They have to. I think the world depends upon it. But I do think that he is very concerned, and I do think he really wants to protect Israel. I really do. And that he's going to give it a red hot go. But there's going to have to be a lot of things, that get taken out first before to kind of, for the threat level to go down before he goes in fully. But I think he will.
Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm biased.
Look,
To
I
me,
could be so wrong, Ram. I'm not being disrespectful to you.
no, I
I could
know
be
that.
wrong. I think he's a massive Zionist, actually. And I really think that he knows how important Israel is. He really does on a spiritual level. I really think he knows that. For all his, kind of acting like a crass buffoon at times, I think he's a deep man. He's been writing about Iran since the 80s. He's had his eye on that Strait of Hormuz and that island, which Ami mentioned a minute ago. Like he knows what's going on there. He's a very deep thinking man.
I I I don't know. I also yes, I agree, but also ego. Also ego. This is the part I can't get over. The business about Gaza, what is it, Board of Peace or what? This is insane. This is insane.
But that's just more. It's
You
just
don't
more
let
bullshit,
Israel finish
Ram.
the job. And then from my
Ram. It's more. It's more cloak and dagger tactics. I'm absolutely sure of it. There is a big, big picture at play here, and we've just got a few bits of the jigsaw. That's all we've got. I really think that that's all cloak and dagger, smoke and mirrors, and that his ego. I mean, you don't get to become the president of the United States of America after having such an amazing life, being the pin-up boy, the poster child of the United States, if you don't have an ego. Of course, he has an ego. They've all got an ego, but he's still a good man, I think, and he's
Well,
not a stupid man.
my
And
point about ego, see, is that you 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 don't understand the Arab mind. To want to go and to get a deal from Qatar or from any Arab or from Iran now to get a deal at this deal in quotation marks is such a misunderstanding given what
Bram,
has
he
happened
knows.
in
He knows he's
Israel.
not going to get a deal out of them. He's been watching them for years.
But my
He's got,
point is that the
he
deal
knows
is
that
the wrong thing to pursue. You don't
he's
deal
not.
with these
He's
people.
pursuing it until it looks ridiculous, and then everyone has to say, "Okay, go for it, then, Trump," and just let him go because he's got to make them look as bad as possible. It's like Operation
To
Let Them
whom? To
Speak.
whom? To whom? Gee? Look as bad as possible to who? To us?
Yeah, well, not to you and me and
who?
the people, to
You know
his
what I'm
people that
saying?
to Congress and to all that. He has to.
He's getting nowhere with it. When you'd want to go for a deal with Arabs, they own you. They absolutely own you. They will make you dance for them. They will suck your blood. They will own you. Do you want an Arab to own you? Do you?
No, no, of course not. I don't want anyone to own me. But
Exactly.
I think he knows that the deal is not ever going to happen. So he's kind of playing it along while they get some other ducks in a row. I really believe that. I have a lot of faith in him and in Netanyahu.
I don't know. I did too. I did too. But I have to to go to include Pakistan, the vilest people on earth, to include them. A deal is the wrong fucking thing to be doing with these people. You don't give them a voice. You don't give them an option. This is the mistake. The mistake is understanding that these people have a say. They shouldn't have a fucking say. Given what Israel just went through, I don't care about anybody else. Given what Israel just went through, you don't do deals about this. Deals. I'm not explaining it properly, I think.
I think
No,
maybe if I
no,
can jump in.
you explain it fine, Ram. I just think that we disagree, but neither of us know. So we just got to hold on. And I'm sorry to cut you off, Justin, but I'll land my plane now.
We don't
No,
disagree.
perfect.
We don't
Perfect.
disagree. I'm hearing you. I'm just not expressing myself in a satisfactory way.
Sorry, sorry about earlier. I had to just deal with something, but great, really good points. I want to just sort of touch on two things, and I think that this is where the Americans struggle, and I think any sort of democratic society struggles, and that is the axis that you're actually fighting. They're like dictatorships. They last 30 years, 40 years, and they don't have the fear of time. Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei, he basically started 47 years ago, um, making the meetings and his plans and building the proxy army across the Middle East. And I think this is what plays against the Americans specifically in this instance. And they know it. They know that Trump has basically got, what is it, 2.5 years to basically be really effective. And that makes me wonder about what you and Ram, what you and Sephora are talking about, because you've got to ask yourself the question. We obviously don't know in the public, we don't see the entire picture. Thank goodness for that. But that whether he's playing a strategy or whether they are basically in a deadlock. And I'd like to believe that there is some kind of strategy behind it. I think everybody listening would probably agree that they would prefer that there would be a strategy and a plan. But if there is a deadlock, the worrying thing and the worrying factor here is that Iran is master negotiated, masters at deception, masters at discussing the talking points. So they know that they've got to basically wait Trump out, and they keep on pulling Trump away from the core issues continuously by basically bringing Hormuz into the picture and the oil and oil prices around the world, and and then when they discuss the uranium or the enriched uranium, one thing that they would literally do is, they would deny the fact that they have uranium, or they would say that, America, when they did the bombing, that the Americans buried the uranium under the ground, and that they would invite them then and say to them, well, you come and assist us, knowing that, I'm saying that if they got close to a deal and they were still trying to delay, I could imagine that they would probably ask the Americans a delegation under their supervision and say, fine, sure, we agree, there's enriched uranium, it's on our territory, but we can't access it because you bombed it, and it's, it's inaccessible, and you can come and look, and then they'll keep them going backwards and forwards like this. But, bringing this all back full circle to this axis, and that they've got time on their hands and the Americans don't, because you have a new incoming administration, you'll have new foreign policy, and so on and so on. These people keep playing that into their favor. And Chipora mentioned sort of World War III, and I hope this is not too much or too conspiratorial, but I do believe in many ways that the world is in a World War III. And I think it's been going on for quite some time. And I think the three major powers of the world, Russia, China, and America, they know that they cannot engage with each other in direct kinetic conflict. So they've got proxies. And while Iran has got many proxies throughout the Middle East, Iran serves as a proxy to both China and Russia. And then, so, you have this multi-layered axis that continuously working against America and basically undermining the West. And I think that unless people realize this is like what Arm was mentioning earlier about not having Hezbollah as part of the deal, or Lebanon not part of the deal. But in reality, I think the Israelis and
how insane is that, Justin? How
Sorry,
insane
say
is
again,
that?
Ram?
How insane is that? How insane is that to include Hezbollah and Lebanon and whatever is Iran? How insane is that? How foolish?
Well, you know what, Ram, I agree with you, but I have a different take. I think that it should be included. I've been giving it some thought, and if you touch Hezbollah, you basically, whether you touch Hezbollah, whether you touch any one of the factions in Gaza, because it's all the Gazans basically, you basically harm Iran at the end of the day. So it shouldn't be viewed as a separation.
At Israel's expense, Justin? At Israel's expense?
No. But what I'm saying is that if I was in Israel's shoes, I wouldn't have agreed to Trump's cessation of hostilities. I would have actually challenged him, and I would have put the ball back in his court and said to him, they are an actual extension of Iran. There's no distinction. It's Iran's orders, basically, that they attack and that they harm Israeli civilians. So if I was Netanyahu, I would basically lobby Trump and say to him, we are still technically in a war with Iran, and we shouldn't let up, and that the front should remain hot, and it should be under kinetic sort of negotiations should take place under fire, basically. And that negotiations will not stop because you are basically clearing the northern border and securing Israel's northern border because you're at a war with Iran, and Iran is talking. And if he wanted to use some kind of leverage as to why that is acceptable, he could point out to what happened even today. and say, well, look, today Iran launched missiles towards Kuwait and drones and injured 63 people. And I think it was some Americans that got injured as well. So you have this thing where you're talking with these people and you can't touch Hezbollah, you can't touch the Houthis, you can't touch it. You know, they want to create distinctions. And I'm saying maybe it needs to be thought of in a different way. Maybe it shouldn't be a distinction. You should maybe potentially lump them back in all under the umbrella that they come from and never ever make the distinction, because these groups don't exist outside of the fact that Iran basically was their head, you know, and I think that if Trump could basically then say to Israel, you know, you have the green light to continue military operations against Hezbollah while we're under discussion with Iran, because it would be a leverage point. It makes no sense. You lose the leverage point by basically making a distinction. If you had the no distinction, you could be continuously hammering Hezbollah, which would weaken Iran. Iran understands this very well. The moment that you touch Hezbollah or any one of the proxies, it ultimately trickles back to them and it damages their reputability in the Middle East, their strength, their image, and all this. So I really think that maybe there's another way to look at this as well, and that is that maybe people need to start calling on Trump and saying to change the perspective and say that none of these groups exist outside of Iran's sphere of influence. And then none of what Iran does exists outside of the influence and the sphere of Russia and China as an anti-Western axis. You know, if that makes sense what I'm trying to say. Thanks.
You masters of deception, the Iranians, you say, Justin, we are the masters of stupidity, is what we are in the West. My whole point, my entire point, is that we are the fickle assholes. We are the ones that are teetering on, we don't have time. Time is never our friend. Time is an enemy. We don't have years to I wish we did, but we don't. There's urgency here. There's urgency. What happens in one corner affects the entire sphere of Islam and all these other places that we are. Why are we walking on eggshells? Why are we walking on eggshells? The Iran will be replaced by Turkey. Will be replaced by whatever. This is the game in the Middle East. This is the game with Islam. We don't have time. We have urgency.
Well,
we don't know what comes after Trump. We don't know what comes after Bibi. We know that within ourselves, we're knocking at we're always criticizing our presidents. There's Democrats, there's this, there's that, the other thing. In our own societies, we don't have time. We have urgency. We must accomplish immediately.
Ram, you know,
the only reason Syria fell, Bashar Assad fell, the only reason is because Israel attacked Hezbollah. The obliterated is Hezbollah, and that's the reason Assad didn't have the army to defend himself anymore, and he fell. This is the kind of situation we're in. Thank you.
Well, Ram, you know, that's the reason why I'm saying in response to that, and you're perfectly right. You know, there's sort of like a double distinction to make. So you would lump them all together in order to keep them as you are fighting against a single enemy. No matter whether you're fighting Hezbollah, whether you're fighting the Houthis, whether you're fighting
exactly
all the people in Iraq, you know, the terror groups there like Hashd al-Shaabi and these type of people. If you would lump them together and keep them as a cohesive enemy, then you can still make distinctions within that frame of war and say the army will deal with certain of these elements individually. So you would look at which is the immediate threat and throw your forces towards that and deal with that first, but with the understanding that it's all under the same enemy. And I think that's the only way that you could actually make the necessary leverage for the
Yes.
necessary negotiation. If you wanted negotiation, I'm personally against negotiation, for the simple reason is that in the modern world that we live in, you know, you could sit down with Germany in World War II and nations back then, and you could have your sort of train cart meetings like the treaties of Versailles, where you could demand unconditional surrender. And I think that the world we live in today, there's no such thing as unconditional surrender when it comes to the three major powers, because of the fact that we have nuclear weapons. None of these nations can sign unconditional surrender. It's just not a reality. So that's why I believe they have these proxies, and they do have these proxy battles. And that's why I'm saying, in order to basically deal with the necessary proxies and to keep the pressure and to leverage, to try to bring these people to the table and to try to say to them, you know, we're going to put a knife to your throat. You need to start removing these proxy armies of Iran across the Middle East, even if it's one at a time. And that's why I'm saying Israel has, in my opinion, absolutely every reason and every right to continue the pressure, regardless of what the United States or Europe or any country basically says that they need to do, because they're not fighting Hezbollah, they're fighting Iran. Iran remains the single body, the head, the command center, the hub, the money, and these are their arms, like the tentacles, like I say. And if you want to bring Iran to the table, you have to damage every mechanism that they control, not just their individual weaponry. You know, you don't worry about the Strait of Hormuz and the drones and go after the proxies, destroy the proxies, get rid of the proxies, get the Gazans out of Gaza, get all the terror groups that exist in Judea and Samaria, get them out, get Hezbollah off of Israel's northern border. Have a look very closely what's happening in Syria. You know, maybe I'll mention Jordan. You know, you have stuff being smuggled in from Jordan. I know that Jordan is probably a very volatile situation under the surface, because you have a whole lot of Iranian cells basically pouring into Jordan, and they're going to try and destabilize Jordan, and probably very soon. So I'll land my plane there, but I think that the only way to leverage is basically to label all of these proxy groups as not individuals, so that when you sit down at a negotiation table, you don't have the distinction of, okay, we're dealing with these people, so we can't deal with that, and we're dealing with that, so we can't deal with this. No, we deal with everything.
Let them feel defeat. You see the stories. Just read the story of smuggling weapons from Jordan.
I
They
put this,
don't stop.
Grandma,
They
put
don't
it in
stop.
the chat. You can see for yourself. I
They don't-
would act differently the way we see it here. There are no good Muslims, and you have to know your enemy. It's a war.
There are no good Lebanese either.
Yeah, it's a Muslim country. Lebanon is a Muslim country now. Now, the West has been fed lies and lies and lies. One of them is that Americans nowadays, okay, if you think, more people support the Fakistinians, and I dare to call them Fakistinians because their whole existence is a lie. It's based on fake thing. So the Fakistinians, they believe, the Americans believe that the Fakistinians, and this is where the problem is, this is why they keep saying two-state solution, because they were fed lies that so-called Fakistinians want to live close to us together, and they really don't know the enemy. When they say two-state solution, the Fakistinians mean, this is the final solution. They want to kill us. This is why when they say from the river to the sea, that means from the Jordan River, okay, in the east, until the west, the Mediterranean Sea. They want to eliminate Israel completely. And the Americans and everybody else, also the French, yeah, shut up Frenchie, like that movie with Mr. Bean, French, Europeans, everybody needs to understand that we are here to stay. They need to, be quiet and mind up their own business, because their own countries are going to fall. And I'll be very happy. I'm sorry to be nasty. I'll be very happy when I see that, because it's not going to take a few years. I'm talking months, months. In the UK, if you look at when I used to post this doomsday clock, they're 5-2. That means the next stage is going to be a civil war that the Muslims are provoking, and then boom, Sharia law, done. UK is very close, France, Belgium, Norway, Sweden. Mark my words. Remember that I told you. It's going to happen. And people need to understand this is a war, this is a religious war. It's a religious war. And the Muslims, yeah, they use taqiyya. Taqiyya is deception, is lying. They lie to the public. And those stupid people, which I can never understand why a UK person comes to me and tell me they're good Muslims, especially if he's Jewish. This is like ironic. Like, only what? Yesterday, somebody wrote me to IDM that there was an arson in Golders Green.
Yeah. They're falling
That's the
already.
second one in a very short time.
They're falling
You
already.
need to understand the enemy. This is the whole issue. So if it was me, I wouldn't go after Gaza, because now they know the Hamas. It's not just the Hamas. It's everybody there is a terrorist. As soon as you're 5 years old, you're a terrorist. The Gazans, they won't disarm. Okay, I wouldn't turn to Hezbollah and say, oh, these are good people, we're not going to bomb them. You bomb them all. You cannot have this distinction, because if you are good-hearted, you are dead. The minute you think they're good Muslims, you are dead. Don't think that, oh, if my neighbor is a Muslim, okay, and he's not an activist in terror attacks, so he's good. No, no, no. This Muslim, I've got to tell people who are going to, after the space, we're going to put this on YouTube, on my channel. Those quiet Muslims, they will hold you while the terrorists are going to kill you.
Exactly.
They have to go together. This is the Muslim Brotherhood. They help one another. This is a bloodthirsty cult. You have to understand who you're dealing with. So I would go bomb Iran. But right now, Trump knows something that many people don't understand. This is, in a way, it's not just Operation Rising Lion, Roaring Lion, Epic Fury. This is the beginning of World War III, because we see China, we see Russia, all those countries, also Turkey. Turkey is the next threat after Iran. Turkey is helping al-Jolani in Syria. Okay, so all those players are being exposed now, and Trump knows that, and also our prime minister. They understand it. It's not that easy like in the Bible days. You want to go and you just conquer. Today, it's very, very tricky. Very tricky. But my guess, there will be an attack in Iran. That's my guess. Yes, Justin.
Also really, really good points. I think that with World War III, the point you made about World War III, I think that in the modern world we live in, I think it's just very difficult to define, because I don't think that the world has ever seen what World War looks like when proxies begin the engagement. The world is used to seeing world wars where major nations basically collide with each other and go kinetic. And they don't yet fully have a definition, so to say, for what they're seeing now, where you have these proxies battling each other on behalf of the nations. I mean, you look at how, for instance, Russia has employed the use of North Koreans in Ukraine. And before the North Koreans even joined the Russians, they were lifting people from Syria. Russia was pulling people from Syria to come and fight there. And I remember seeing videos out of Ukraine battlefields where it looked like a Syrian battlefield. You had these Muslims that were fighting and shooting RPGs and shouting Arabic slogans. And, you would think it was in the Middle East, and it's literally in Europe. So I think that I'll double down on it. I don't think that we're heading for World War III. I really truly believe that we're sitting in a undefined World War III. People are still trying to figure what it what this is. And the other thing about that is World War II raged for 2 years before it was recognized as a world war. So even if you look at it from that perspective, we might really be in that world war right now. And I think because of that, it calls for times of vigilance and understanding, and especially among the West, like you said, understanding what Islam's goal is. Its goal is to conquer the West, and it's being utilized by very, very strong, powerful backers. And if they don't, if America doesn't recognize this and Europe doesn't recognize this, and I think that you're right on Europe's side. Europe is down the barrel of the gun, so to say, so deep that I think the only thing left for many countries in Europe is basically just to pull the trigger, and the bullet's going to come flying out, because there's no other way for them. They're just too much into this. I hope that the Americans still have time, and I hope that with their politics, they have a large rift in America politically. And I hope that maybe then Trump or maybe the next president can sort of bring a little bit more cohesion in the society there, because there is this huge, huge divide between Democrat and Republican. And I think that unless America can resolve that issue, it's going to be very difficult for them to resolve the other issues in the world that demand their attention.
The dilly-dallying from the West is making World War III more possible than not. Instead of finishing things off, you're allowing for alliances to come into fruition. You're allowing for that. What if Turkey and Iran collaborate? That is World War III. What if Turkey and Iran and Pakistan and what they collaborate? That is World War III. It is very, very feasible, very possible, because you're dilly-dallying and making it possible instead of finishing the thing off. Finishing the thing off like Syria finished off Syria, like Israel finished off Syria, like Israel is finishing off, should have finished off Gaza instead of this Gaza Riviera business and Board of Peace business. This is making it complicated and creating alliances where it's possible now to become World War III. What happens if China sticks around with one of these? It's too complicated. You don't need this complication in your life.
Ram, I'd like to comment on what you said. Two things. One about Pakistan and Turkey and Iran. Who tells you that they don't speak? Of course they do, because that was a idiot idea to let Pakistan, a Muslim country, to be the mediator, because we've seen before, not a few weeks ago, right, that they were given to the Iranians a different plan, different point. I think it was 10 or 15 point each side. The Americans and the Iranians got a different, contract.
You show weakness, this is what happens. You show weakness, this is what happens. You deal with Arabs, this is what happens. This is what happens.
Yeah, but I'm looking at something else. There's something else. You're talking about Gaza. It's all together. It's all connected. And this is where I said you cannot trust Muslims, because Trump is hoping also, our Prime Minister Bibi, that Saudi Arabia is going to join the Abraham Accords. You have to understand this is another issue. Okay, so they want the Saudis, the Qataris, everybody to join the Abraham Accords, which will not happen. I'm telling you right now. How do we know that? Because they just put conditions. They said, we won't do that. We want the Gazans to stay in Gaza. And of course, it cannot happen, because they want the Gazans to stay in Gaza because they want Israel to suffer. So it's like the way I see it, it's like this Abraham Accords, you must not, Americans and Israelis should not think about it, because it's not going to happen. First of all, Muslims not Abraham descendants. Hell no. And the second of all, if you are in Abraham Accords, if you're signing the Accords, you have to agree that you acknowledge Israel, which is with its entirety, as Jerusalem with its capital. And they will never do that. They will never do it.
Can I ask an elementary, stupid question?
What?
How is the guardian of Islam, the Islam that preaches against Jews and Christians, how is the guardian of that religion going to negotiate and recognize Israel? How does he do this? How does he do that?
I think that's easy. Sorry, I'll jump in there. I think that's easy. And the reason why I say that is because they've got 6 different ways of lying to further Islam in order to do that. So they may very well do that with like a Hudaybiyah mentality.
Justin, my point is, it's an impossibility. It's an impossibility. If he does this, the Islamic world will rise against him. They don't want this. They don't want this. Why would you keep pushing it? And by the way, the Abraham Accords, the spirit of it is beautiful, but it is worth nothing to Israel. Israel doesn't need the Arabs. Israel needs nothing from the Arabs, needs nothing from them. Only that they will stop hitting Israel. Only that. Only.
Yeah, Prime Minister Netanyahu is conveying a special discussion tonight on Lebanon and the expected Israeli response.
When?
Yeah, this is right now in the news.
Tonight meaning when? Just now?
This evening, he will have a special, with the cabinet, a special gathering.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he's having a press conference.
No.
Okay.
I have to say something. I know that we hear also Jewish people, okay, and also Christians. The Christians have to understand something very, very, very important. Like we know that we pray for Israel and the IDF every day. You know that. I have spaces on that. I will always do that. Never stopped ever since October 7th. And one of the prayer for the Israel says, right, there is a verse that God will bring us back to the land of Israel. Now, Christians need to understand something very important. Jews have a home here in Israel. They're all welcome because there is a law of return. Okay? When they come, who is going to be the next target? The Christians. So they have to understand, they have to be with the Jews. They have to stick to the Jews because the Muslim, they're very devious when they come to any Western country, okay, Christian country, because UK used to be a Christian country. They're very devious. They make the people there who are already anti-Semite hate us more. But those people are useful idiots for Islam. They really don't understand that they're going to be next.
Tom, you're talking to only American Christians.
I'm talking to.
You're not talking to 99% of the world Christians. You're not talking to them. As far as I'm concerned, they might as well be Muslims today.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm talking about the ones who left and their heart still left. They're called Christians. They need to understand.
Only the American Christians. Only. Trust me. There is no friend. There is no friend. There are no friends.
Okay, so they need to understand. They need to understand what Islam is. That they want the Jews, the Christians, everybody. They called us infidels. They have to kill us, slaughter us. They cannot be friends of ours. Cannot. It's in their verses in the freaking satanic notebook. Sorry to say, sorry about my French, but yeah, I love my French.
The religion is based, it admonishes against Christians and Jews. It admonishes the Jew. How are you going to recognize the Jew when your religion says you hate the Jew? How do you acknowledge them? And by the way, do you notice something about Trump? That the people of the Abraham Accords, Ambassador Friedman was not invited back to this administration, but people like Bannon and Tucker Carlson and them were invited back, and J.D. Vance were invited back. Where did this all? What happened? What happened?
Well, there was a very interesting post. I don't know. I don't like bringing this up, especially in this space. But did you see that Candace Owens posted on X a photo of her and her husband standing in Russia and saying they lied to you about Russia? So
There
this
you
is
go.
yeah. There's your connection, and
There you
most
go.
of them are like this. So you have this. That's why I said this is definitely a multi-layered, undefined war that is taking place on such a scale. And I think that you can see the proxy side of it, and we can certainly see the propaganda side of it. What's in the media, the information war. But where this goes, if America is not strong, and oof, if Europe can't come to its senses and act like yesterday, I mean, I totally agree with most of the thoughts that are being put out at the moment on the space right now, and that is, there's no distinction between Islam and Nazism. I mean, you can look back in history and you can see it, and it has the same ideology. It has a global agenda for conquest. It seeks to. It basically says in their own text that one day the world will all be under an Islamic caliphate, and only in that day, there will be this peace, whatever that means. What a lot of people don't realize is like peace for a Muslim is not peace like the West understands peace. Like where there's no fighting, and peace for them means you basically either convert or you're dead. So you don't exist anymore, and that brings a Muslim peace because he no longer needs to fight anyone. And
they will fight amongst themselves. They always do. The Shia,
well, we know that.
the
Yeah.
Shiite, they argue how what Muhammad looked like. If I don't know if he even really existed, that guy. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
You're right.
Look, the West is falling. We all see this. Let's live in reality. Let's not live in Trump world of imagination and this possibility and that. We all see that the world is falling. All of our efforts should be about only Israel to safeguard that place. The
we do need
cradle of the civilization is Israel. It is not America. It is not Trump. We all see that the game is over. We need to only be concerned about Israel. Really, really.
Well, the laws of the Western world and culture and all this, obviously, it is underpinned by Israel. Without Israel, you have no future of the world. And I'd appeal
Which is
to
my point.
Christians. I'd appeal to
Exactly.
Christians. Ram. I'd appeal to the Christians in that point because, for the most part, the Christians hold to the belief that the whole future and is dependent on Israel. Without Israel, there is no future. There's no world. There's no anything. So
Exactly.
if we put that one side and we talk about it the way that you put it, just as far as culture and about what Israel meant to the world, you're 100% correct. It should be safeguarded, but I also don't want to be too doom and gloom. I totally respect what you're saying about safeguarding Israel, and the attention should be put there. And I think that naturally over time, I think more and more attention will be placed on Israel by the broader world in general. And I think that that's why it's super, super, super critical to have recordings like this, spaces like this, discussions like this, to bring discussion into the average person's home so that they can discuss the right and truthful side to Israel, and how the world view, because the world view is being skewed by all of this infiltration, communist socialism, Nazism, Islamism, like, these ideologies are toxic in Western societies at the moment. Like I said, you saw Candace Owens in Russia.
Something. Do you know, because we know about from the Nazis, from the Holocaust and the Shoah, about the yellow star. What people don't know is that the cult that thought about the yellow star was nothing, no one basically but the Islam. Islam was the first one that thought about the yellow star. It came from Islam, not from the times of the Holocaust. It came way before.
Right.
Yeah, people need to understand this.
Justin, the next administration, then after Trump, is going to be probably a Democratic administration, and that will be a final. It will become clear that America has fallen, and that Israel is America's enemy. And it might go as far as, I mean, it not might. It's just, I can imagine that it will go as far as America bombing Israel. This is how bad it's going to be. So these are the facts of life. These are the facts of life now. This is the reality that we should acknowledge and know about. There is urgency. That's all I can say. There is urgency to this. And Trump is not being smart or intelligent. And Israel must secure itself now. Israel must secure itself now, not tomorrow. Today, not tomorrow.
We have to wait and see, because Trump gave Iran 60 days extension, like of see what's going to happen with the talks, but we know they're not going to work out. So let's hope, I think in the near months, we're going to see what's going to happen. Don't forget that there are also the midterm elections coming up in the States. Something to think about.
I think that's very key on. I think if the next sort of action will take place after that, in my opinion. I think that this is what they're waiting for. I think that any near-term sort of strike, I think can be. I wouldn't rule them out. I'm not an armchair general. I'm not gonna say what the American military will or won't do, because that's just a ridiculous statement. But if I think of what is important to the politics in America, being the midterms and trying to sort of balance everything and keep everything sort of regulated, the oil prices, the temperament, trying to keep a sense of peace. And I think that it will probably go towards midterms, have the midterms, and I think that we're probably going to start hot again come January. I think the world, if you look at the last couple of years, at least maybe 3 years, 4 years now, for some reason, every single January starts off with a lot of action. And I think that this is a trend that is starting, and I think that we're probably going to see this again play out now after the midterms, if we don't see any action against Iran sooner than that. Which, in my opinion, again, I wouldn't let up. I wouldn't let up against Lebanon or Iran or any of them. You have to keep the pressure on these people, and not for negotiation's sake. You really need to break their will. They didn't play nice in previous wars. War is not a nice thing, and you don't fight your enemy with the intention of hurting him so that he comes to sign. You absolutely fight him so that he doesn't have the capacity to fight back. And I think that this is also something the Western world has sort of twisted. They've got this viewpoint of sort of turn the other cheek, love your neighbors, you love yourself, love your enemy, feed your enemy. But you cannot be like that, because there's never been a war that has ever existed on this earth. You can go to any war that's ever been fought. No war is fought like that. People have got to stop being the nice guy and get a spine and get some morals, and saying that it's actually immoral because if you leave evil people to conduct warfare and kill innocent people, and you say that you should feed people like this and you should love them, and you are becoming immoral yourself because you're allowing evil people to harm other innocent people. So in the name of morality, you have become immoral. And I think this is something that the West is deeply, deeply battling with, trying to, the war of morality. I think that's another thing, another topic that we could touch on sometime, and that is the Western war on morality.
Do you know that the MAGA people, Trump's people, for the midterms, MAGA, America First, do you know how strong the anti-Israel sentiment is in that group?
Well, I can't understand why Trump ram. This is a strange thing from an outsider. Why doesn't Trump really clamp down on this? Because you see it. It's in the far right.
You know
It's
why?
in the MAGA camp. It's crazy to see it.
You know why, Justin. You know why. That's the
Well, I have,
duplicity that
yeah.
I'm talking about. See, that's the duplicity that I'm talking about.
It needs to be cleaned up. They need to, I mean, people like Tucker Carlson and people like this needed to be called out and sidelined and said, this isn't MAGA. This is not real MAGA. This is not the true face of the Republican Party. This is some fringe
Apparently it is,
far right
Justin.
element.
Apparently it is. Think
Well,
of the
according to
phrasing.
them, it is.
Think of the phrasing, America First. Think of the phrasing. Who is that about? What is that about? America First. Who is second? Why did America First become a thing? What did they mean by it? Do you know who they meant by it? They meant Israel. That's who they meant by it.
I would like to see America never abandon Israel. I once heard somebody say that the day that America abandoned Israel is the day that God would abandon America. And I mean, America's slogan is one nation under God. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Exactly. You see it happening. You see it happening live in real life. This is the reality of the situation. This is what it is. See?
Yeah, it's a brief segue, and I don't want to get people off topic, but and turn this into like a whole kind of spiritual, kind of woo nebulous sort of thing. But ever since Oliver Cromwell invited Jews back into England, a lot of Jews have lived there very happily. They have a very unique old diaspora. They weren't really Zionists initially because they were part of the establishment, after a couple of hundred years. And now the final guy in this one family that's been there 400 years is moving to Israel. And, they were they were established British Jews. They were British first. And, the British, a lot of them really love their Jews. They love their Jews a lot. They get quite possessive about it when they bitch about Keir Starmer. They say, or the left in England, or the UK, they say they raped our girls, as in the girls in the poor suburbs, as in the Pakistani ones, and they have let them kill our Jews. So that's very possessive. That's very emotional. That's a lot of British people really love their Jews, and they are devastated because a lot of them believe, just as you just said about one nation under God, and the day that America turns its back on Israel is the day that God deserts America. That people are saying now in Britain, if we lose our Jews, God is not going to like us. So there are people, they're just not as noisy. People on the right, conservative people, except for you idiots like Tucker Carlson and I don't dismiss them. They're dangerous, but they got jobs. They don't have time to go on parades with blue hair and all that kind of stuff. They'll do a couple of parades, but it's the left that always do all that stuff. They don't have, they live on welfare, a lot of them. And they're also funded by, of course, bad actors. But you got a lot of people, conservatives in the UK and probably too in America. There are millions of Zionists in the world that aren't Jewish, that are of despairing of this because they know what it means. And it's apart from that they love Jews, they have a spiritual belief, like you were saying. And I don't want to sidetrack the conversation by saying that, but the fact that you've got these very established Jewish families who are part of the elite kind of establishment Jewish families leaving because of the anti-Semitism, that's a canary in the coal mine. That is a sick culture
Exactly.
that allows their a culture's already sick, and then everyone turns around and obsesses about Israel and Jews. That is the sign that you've got a dying culture, and you've got to cling to your Jews. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that with any arrogance as a Jewish person, but I'm very secular, so it's just more. I that's how I see it. I guess with countries that you can't shout it from the rooftop enough. People won't believe you. They think I'm being an Israelo-Nazi fascist that I think I'm so chosen. We're going to rule the world. No, we're not interested in ruling the world. We just want to have a nice life and become what God wants us to become. But it's because but if we're going to need to be left alone for 5 minutes to do that nation of priests stuff, you know give us like 5 seconds to get our acts together. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's that's all it is. It's a very gentle thing, really. And who chooses to be a servant? I mean, we didn't choose like the greatest job, and everyone hates us for it. So yeah, I really do think that if America was silly enough to turn its back on Israel, then it would not look good for America. And I love America. I'm American. I got naturalized.
The point about, by the way, it reminded me Cromwell when the movie came out, I think 68, 69, something like that, in London. My cousin and I watched it. What was I, about 7, 8, 9 years old, something like that. We sat in the theater 2 or 3 times, I think. We watched it continuously. I was so impressed. I was so fascinated by Cromwell. And then later on in life, I found out that they put his head on a stake in front of Parliament for 30 years. So that was the thing. What was I going to say? You said something about secular, Z? Secular. Most people are secular in the sense that, most Westerners are secular in the sense that, we're secular. But on occasion, when a secular person wants to become more Jewish, more religious, the Jewish person and the Christian person will become more religious according to the religion. When a Muslim is secular and wants to become more religious, what does he revert to?
I think they're all religious. Even the so-called secular that you think the guys are secular. They're all
Yeah, but the point is when a Muslim is a Muslim who, for example, who drinks and all of that stuff, when he wants to become more religious, what does he revert to? Meaning that he becomes the
Exaggerate.
ultra, he becomes the more extremist Muslim that he becomes the ISIS. He becomes the
That's the mistake, Trump. Ram, that's the mistake. Sorry, when you use the word, that's a very big mistake. This is take me back to what Geert Wilders said, and that's a mistake. When somebody, a person, leader, tells the people this is extremist Islam or radical Islam, he's helping making a taqiyya, practicing a taqiyya. Because you cannot say this is radical Islam who did this. Islam is radical itself. You just have to look at the book. They're
right.
all extreme.
And
You
what
have to
I'm
understand, they're all extreme. Even the one who drinks and whatever, when the time comes, he knows that he's going to be with his brothers murdering people raping.
Right.
Think about, why do they rape? Why do they rape in the UK, in Sweden? Why do they rape?
So the Muslim that isn't the
No, can you
rapist
answer me?
isn't
Why do they rape?
the
Ryan,
secular one among them. He becomes more religious,
Justin, can you hear me?
meaning he becomes more radical.
Justin, can you hear me?
Sorry, Ram,
No,
can
they're
you
all,
hear
they're
us?
all radical. I don't like to hear the word radical because this is a mistake. Islam is radical. When you say to people, this is radical, in their mind, they think, oh, so the other one is not radical. And this is the mistake. This is why they believe they're good Muslims. There are no good Muslims. Islam is radical. Or you only have to look at their books. Now, I asked you a question. I don't know if you can hear me. Ram, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Ram, can you hear me? Good. Why do you think there was rape? Why do you think those grooming gangs been raping for 15 years in the UK?
No, you're misunderstanding the point, Mom. The point
No, but
I'm making
I'm asking a
is
question. Look,
these.
because I was asking a question because we have here people from the UK as well, and we're going to listen to it later on YouTube. Why do you think the Pakistanis, the Afghanis, whatever, they've been raping girls in the UK? Why? Why in Sweden? Why they're raping? One answer. They're allowed to rape. It's in their freaking book. When the Muslim guy catches, and you saw this on October 7, what they did to our girls, okay? It's a time of war, they catch a woman, I don't know why they say their right hand, she is yours. This is why they're raping girls because they're not Muslims. You have to understand, this is what I said, no way in hell
Yeah, we know
there is
that. We know that. We all understand this. The point I'm making is that when there's
Ram, I don't agree. I don't agree. There is no extremist. They're all extremist.
you
There's
must
one that's
you're misunderstanding a simple point. When
I
we
don't
have
agree.
anecdotes like a
I
Muslim here, a Muslim there, and anecdotes, people, oh, I know a Muslim, he's a good guy, he's a whatever guy, he's a nice guy. These
not
are
good.
anecdotes you hear from people. I'm
A
saying
good
that
this is a mistake. A good Muslim is a dead Muslim. Only yesterday, okay, a terrorist. I'm calling him terrorist from East Jerusalem. He is a bodyguard at a hotel in Jerusalem. Do you know what they did with his followers of the Muslims? From the roof of the hotel, they threw rocks at the people there at the hotel, the Jewish people. No good Muslims. And there's no extreme. They're all extreme. They're all radical. You have to understand that. Once you say it's only extreme or ISIS, you are dead. Sorry to be harsh, but this is the truth. This is what Geert Wilders said to his people. That's why he lost. He kept saying, this is radical Islam. He used to point to the side, this is radical Islam. No way in hell. Islam is radical. Why not tell the truth? This is Islam. The leaders have to tell the people this is Islam, because when they don't tell them, they're basically helping the Muslims practice taqiyya. Sorry for being harsh, but this is the truth.
this is the truth.
It is the truth. No radical, because I'm not like, I hate people say this is radical. They're only radical. They're like, it's only Hamas. It's not the Hamas. Everybody there in Gaza was there during October 7th. How did they know about the people, about the name of the dogs? Because the regular Gazans used to work at the fields and they drew maps. Everybody was there. They all knew it. During the Shoah, the Holocaust, we saw people there in Germany helping the Jews, right? Hiding them. During October 7th, did you see any one Muslim that helped the hostages? No. They were offered money to help to help them. Even Trump and Bibi offered money to them. If somebody helps us, no one did. That's what I said. Pardon my French, I'm going to say it out loud. Fuck Islam. Fuck Islam. They want to practice Islam, let them go back to their fucking Muslim countries, let them kill one another like they always do, even in Israel. When I get up in the morning, I live in Israel. Okay, this one killed himself, killed his brother over land. This one for honor killing, they killed the daughter. Let them kill one another. But please, if you want to come to any country and murder the people, go away. And the leaders have to be strong and they have to put their foot down and not lie to the public, saying they're good Muslims. Not good. People
Tell that to Trump.
have to wake up. And I pray to God that President Trump, I like him very much. I pray to God that the one after him will be Republican. Otherwise, it's like the country's going to be gone. Has to be Republican, not Democrats, because Democrats is the enemy from within. Like Labour in Australia, this is the enemy from within. The lefties.
I think the world has got a big problem on that they need to try to understand. You know, I'm in agreement with you about what you said, and I think that this is something that the West very clearly doesn't understand, and that is that how can you also walk around a society that basically they attend. Let's flip the switch. Let's talk it in this way. If a Christian person or a Jewish person, let's say a Jewish person went into a synagogue, or a Christian person went into a church, and they were preaching that everybody else was lower society, you know, lower class people, second grade people, and that you were more important than everyone else, and that you had the mandate from God to kill everyone else. And this is being preached from, you know, from respectively from synagogues or churches. And I'm saying that this is not happening. I want to preface this so that the people listening to this don't misunderstand what I'm saying. This is not happening, but I'm saying if it were happening, okay, then there would be a huge backlash at this, and they would go after synagogues, they would go after churches, they would go after rabbis and pastors, and basically they would lock them in jail, and people in the congregations would be arrested, and there would be no distinction made about whether you were good and you held to it or you didn't hold to it. For instance, take into consideration some of the cults that exist in America, where you have really obscure teachings and the police do raids on these places. They don't go there and ask the congregants of these cults, you know, are you a good one or are you a bad one, or anything like this. They look at what is being preached, and they look at the attendees, and they look at, you know, their involvement and everything like this. And I'm saying that if you have a whole lot of Islam or Muslims going to mosques, so to say, and they have this message being preached, and it's not different. It's not like they claim like, oh, it's a misunderstanding or a misquote or something. The book is very explicit about what it seeks to do, and it explicitly, even if we don't go into individual verses, the entire concept of the actual belief system is that it believes that it will be the only religion on the face of the earth. Everyone will either be a Muslim or you will be dead. And that's not up for debate. You know, some people will.
Justin, it's either pay the jizya, okay, or convert or die. But my guess with the UK people, it's going to be convert or die. That's it.
But even if you look at, like I said, I actually wanted to deal with this from like a very high level without going into the individual verses in it, and because if you keep it at a high level, you know, you mentioned the jizya, and I'll just touch on it very quickly. You know, I mean, the jizya is basically a payment for a non-Muslim who can keep his faith, so to say, but then his master, who he reports to, is a Muslim, and the Muslim then can humiliate him, use him like livestock, beat him, and change the value of the jizya itself in order to make it not payable, so that he becomes the person gets to a point where they cannot pay it and they have to convert or die. So even if we don't deal with it at that level, but you deal with it according to what their system says, and their system overall has got one message. It says the whole world will be under Islam. The whole world will be an Islamic caliphate, and then their God will come, and there will be global peace, and so on. I'm saying the other religions, for the most part.
Justin, I'm sorry, another correction. Let's stop using the word religion, because it's not a religion. Islam is not a religion. I think I'm going to have another space on that one. Islam is a cult. This is it. People are brought to believe, in something fake. It's not a
Well,
religion. Terminology is very important here. It's a cult. And there are
let's
50 characteristics, and I used to have spaces on that one, went one by one. It's a cult. Now, when they say to you, before they kill, before they murder, okay, which, by the way, if you know the Ten Commandments, they're 5 and 5. Remember, Justin? We saw the movie,
yes,
everybody saw the movie, the Ten Commandments, 5 and 5. Why 5 and 5? The first 5 are what you do, the other 5 is what you don't do. And the first one out of the don't do is do not murder. You do not murder. So it goes against what Islam is practicing, goes against everything, against anything humane, humanity, life. Now, before they murder, what do they say? How do they shout? They say Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. What does it mean? It means my God is greater than yours. That's what it means in Arabic.
well, this is why I'm saying it. I agree with you. So let me correct it. I also do believe it is a cult. I do believe it is a cultic system. But so if we address it from that perspective, they do shout that, and you know, if that's what I'm saying, the whole system itself says that it will be the dominant right throughout the world, and then you've got to ask people in America and in Europe, if you know that this has got no different belief to what Nazism had. When Nazism believed that they could have the Third Reich and it would reign 1,000 years and it would cover the face of earth and bring peace and yada yada yada. If you have something like this, which is very very tied to that, like we mentioned previously or just a little bit earlier on in the space, then I don't understand how you have this freedom of religion. I think that's what covers it. I think that's where it needs to probably be addressed at as far as America goes. But Europe has addressed it historically. Europe has dealt with it historically, and it's quite sad to see that Europe has lost the historical perspective. It's not the first run in with it, you know. So I'll land my plan here, but I'm just saying that if you understand what it, even if you didn't go into the verses on, like you said, that they can lie, they can cheat, they can steal, they can murder, they can do that in the name of advancement, all this stuff. Even if you just took it at an absolute high level and just said, what does it actually mean? When people start believing in something and they ask themselves, well, what is it that when I believe in this, what does this teach me? What do I believe? And this teaches me that one day this is going to be the whole world. And then say, okay, fine. Well, there's other belief systems that believe something similar, and they're not so bad. Well, here's the difference. They don't have the teaching that in order to make the whole world be like that, you have to have things like you described. You cannot take an infidel as a friend. You cannot sign any agreement, or you cannot make peace with an infidel. All these types of things. They seek to subjugate, submission, all
Chapter
killed.
verse 191. Always remember that. Even the Christians, they have to remember that. 191. Slay them wherever you find them. That's it. This is the whole Quran in one sentence. Slay them wherever you find them. And them is the non-Muslims. And this is what happened on October 7th. The rape, the beheading, fire, everything is in the Quran, in their freaking book. So no mercy.
It's
If
true.
I were to think of the worst evil, like in a work of fiction or a Hollywood movie or something like that, if we were to think of the worst evil in the world, we couldn't do better than Islam. We couldn't come up with a diabolical thing, a more diabolical thing than Islam. We couldn't. We just couldn't. It's evil.
Guys, I think we covered a lot of topics today. We began talking about Israel, Iran, Lebanon, US, and then we moved on, to this entire thing of the cult, the bloodthirsty cult. So, guys, I want to go around the table. Everybody says this one sentence, Ram, before we close. So, Ram, Sipora, Justin.
When I see women's hair, I lose all kinds of perspective, all kinds of senses. I don't know what happens to me. My mind goes into my groin. Did you get it?
Got it. Yes, I got it. Okay. Sipora.
Oh, I'm lost for words. I'm actually not quite sure what this ending part is. So maybe I'll hand it over to Justin. But thank you, Ami. It's very generous that you do this for us. The prayers, especially. I mean, this is wonderful to be able to talk like this. You run a very good space, but the praying, I think, is very important for me at the moment. Probably important for me every day. But I'm very glad that you provide that. And it's great. It's very special. Thank you, and thank you for everyone that attends as well. And I'm sorry that I don't get to attend as often
Is that really
as I
meaningful?
should.
It's really meaningful.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, many people don't. I've been thinking, and let me just, think out loud. We have a space to heal him. To heal him in Hebrew means praise God. Okay, from that word family in English, Psalms. So I do this every day. I read 10 chapters of Tehillim in Hebrew, and then I pray for the IDF in Hebrew and for Israel in Hebrew. And then my friends here pray, they do the same thing in English. And you know what? It's like, if you think about it, the fact that not many people show up, I don't know, maybe it's because X doesn't have notifications or something, says a lot about the people in the West, that they need to go back to Bible. Too many atheists. They need to go back to Bible. At least the
Yes.
Ten Commandments, little things. Because when you are going to be atheist in the West, this is where you see Islam. This is
Right.
where leftism, wokeness, cuckoo-ness, all the stupid
Yep.
stuff. They have to go to the book. I don't mean like you don't have to be Jewish or something. You only need to know what's good and what's right. When you read the Bible is very easy to understand it. Very easy. Yes, Tzipora.
I am aware that I'm speaking to a very sophisticated group here, so forgive me if I'm saying something you all already know. But if there are people that are listening and that will listen in the future that don't want to be any religion that they know of and don't feel comfortable because they're not Jewish, they don't want to convert to Judaism, and that's not something that Jews encourage anyway, and that we need Gentiles, and we hope that you feel that you need us too. Then there's the 7 Noahide laws, and that Noahidism is growing throughout the world. And I'm not bagging Christianity at all here. It's just more that there's, for some people who have a problem with that because they grew up with some strict, Catholic church or something, and they don't like it. The Noahide laws, now they're not particularly organized because the Noahide people throughout history were hunted worse than Jews, because Jews were considered like a lowly animal, and that the sophisticated human being should know better than to love Jews or like Jews enough, And so the Noahide people were really, really hunted down. But now the Noahide are getting more organized. I think there's a Noahide kind of congregation set up that a rabbi, has set up and stuff. I think Virginia Beach or something like that. So it's a long way away, but because we have online and spaces and stuff, you can find Noahide people, and it's just about living the 7 commandments that are meant for Gentiles. So I hate if I'm being patronizing and repetitive and saying, yeah, we know this lady, but that's just something to, think about, perhaps.
Thank you, Tzipora. Justin?
Good comment.
Well, let me start off by thanking you as the gracious host and doing a lot for the community and basically hosting all these spaces. And thank Ram and thank Zipporah. And then hopefully we can have more of these spaces and we can have you come join as well and have other people come in and listen and join. And definitely, I don't want to steal the show on, but you have the channel. People need to know that. They need to subscribe and like and try and support there. Just it doesn't cost you anything. But if I can maybe just close and say that there's a lot of things on the go at the moment geopolitically, and I think that midterms in America are going to be very important, and I think the Americans need to just focus on that and make sure that they can secure that first of all. I think that's first and foremost for the Americans. They need to secure a Republican, the House and the Senate for the Republicans, and then as far as just the general population of the world, if you're not understanding what's happening in Israel, try to surround yourself with pro-Israel communities and try to get information and try to really dig in and get the truth. Don't just listen to the tripe that's been pushed out there on social media and say this must be true because it's the majority or the sort of main stage, because the truth is not the loudest voice, So I think that people need to really try to understand the situation because it is complex. The Middle East is something that is very difficult to try to understand as an outsider. And then lastly, I think that people just need to, especially if you're in the West, just stand with the West, love your culture, love your country, the nations that you were born in, value your families, care for one another. And when difficulty comes, don't cower down from it, stand together. We have governments that are not doing the right thing, for instance, in London, in Europe, that, just really going against the public and really killing their own cultures. And I think that these people, there's some very brave individuals in London that are protesting or taking their voice to the streets and saying, we love the UK and we want to see it safe. We want to see it thriving and prosperous. And same thing with America. I think that for the most part, I think that I would hope to believe that the average American loves their country and wants to see it safe and secure. But at the same time, you've got tremendous challenges, and it's not the time to sit and shy away from everything. I think a lot of people want to do that. They want to shy away from hearing difficult topics because they've got their lives and they focus on their families and their job. I think even if they could start even just discussions, listen to spaces like this, listen to some other podcasts, try to get involved even just at a conversational level and try to educate yourself so that you're aware of what's happening and you don't just sit in front of a TV and swallow mainstream media and then you're going to be lost because, anti-Semitism is growing like that and people need to help one another. They need to stand up and protect, like you said. Sorry, I know I'm talking long. I'll try and land my plane here. But we saw that this is the second attack that's taken place, the arson attack in the UK. Second attack in a very short space of time. And those communities should rally behind the Jewish community and say to them, we see you, we will come, we will help you, we will try and keep you secure and not accept that type of behavior. Otherwise it will fall. Because like you said, the Jewish people will go back to Israel. They have a home and they will go back and they will leave these countries to fend for themselves. And those are dark days. We've seen in history that's exactly what happens. And it's repeating itself. So people, now's the time to really wake up, pay attention, and speak up. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank
This
you.
is the time now. I'd like to refer to any Americans here or in the future listening to me. I realize that there are some Americans even here, because I check everybody's account that comes to my spaces, that they say, why should we help Israel? those people are a little bit clueless. Why? Because they need to know geopolitics. US is a big nation. As a nation, it has to have an ally anywhere in the world. So the only ally that the US has in the Middle East is Israel. The only ally. Even
Yep.
now, as we speak, okay, you have Qataris ruining the universities, the next generation. You have Iranians having dormant cells. The Muslim Brotherhood are in the US. So wake up, people. Israel is the only ally of the US. Only.
Yep.
So they have to work together. And Trump and Bibi are a good team. And I'd like to just end the space with God bless Israel. God bless the state of America. And Am Yisrael Chai.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Amen.
Yeah. I will see you on the next time, on the next space. Right, guys? It was a good. I've been thinking, and let me just, think out loud. We have a space, Tehillim. Tehillim in Hebrew means praise God. Okay, from that word family. In English, Psalms. So I do this every day. I read 10 chapters of Tehillim in Hebrew, and then I pray for the IDF in Hebrew and for Israel in Hebrew. And then my friends here pray. They do the same thing in English. And you know what? It's like, if you think about it, the fact that not many people show up, I don't know, maybe it's because X doesn't have notifications or something, says a lot about the people in the West, that they need to go back to Bible. Too many atheists. They need to go back to Bible. At least the
Yes.
commandments, little things. Because when you are going to be atheist in the West, this is where you see Islam. This is
Right.
where leftism, wokeness, cuckoo-ness, all the stupid stuff. They have to go to the book. I don't mean like you don't have to be Jewish or something. You only need to know what's good and what's right. When you read the Bible is very easy to understand it. Very easy. Yes, Tzipora.
I am aware that I'm speaking to a very sophisticated group here, so forgive me if I'm saying something you all already know. But if there are people that are listening and that will listen in the future that don't want to be any religion that they know of and don't feel comfortable because they're not Jewish, they don't want to convert to Judaism, and that's not something that Jews encourage anyway, and that we need Gentiles, and we hope that you feel that you need us too. Then there's the 7 Noahide laws, and that Noahidism is growing throughout the world. And I'm not bagging Christianity at all here. It's just more that there's, for some people who have a problem with that because they grew up with some strict, Catholic church or something, and they don't like it. The Noahide laws, now they're not particularly organized because the Noahide people throughout history were hunted worse than Jews, because Jews were considered like a lowly animal, and that the sophisticated human being should know better than to love Jews or like Jews enough, And so the Noahide people were really, really hunted down. But now the Noahide are getting more organized. I think there's a Noahide kind of congregation set up that a rabbi, has set up and stuff. I think Virginia Beach or something like that. So it's a long way away, but because we have online and spaces and stuff, you can find Noahide people. And it's just about living the 7 commandments that are meant for Gentiles. So I hate if I'm being patronizing and repetitive and saying, yeah, we know this lady, but that's just something to, think about, perhaps.
Thank you, Tzipora. Justin?
Good comment.
Well, let me start off by thanking you as the gracious host and doing a lot for the community and basically hosting all these spaces. And thank Ram and thank Tzipora. And then hopefully we can have more of these spaces and we can have you come join as well. and have other people come in and listen and join. And definitely, I don't want to steal the show on, but you know, you have the channel. People need to know that. They need to subscribe and like and try and support there. Just it doesn't cost you anything. But if I can maybe just close and say that there's a lot of things on the go at the moment geopolitically, and I think that midterms in America are going to be very important, and I think the Americans need to just focus on that and make sure that they can secure that first of all. I think that's first and foremost for the Americans. They need to secure a Republican, the House and the Senate for the Republicans, and then as far as just the general population of the world, if you're not understanding what's happening in Israel, you know, try to surround yourself with pro-Israel communities and try to get information and try to really dig in and get the truth. Don't just listen to the crap that's been pushed out there on social media and say this must be true because it's the majority or the sort of main stage, you know, because the truth is not the loudest voice, you know. So I think that people need to really try to understand the situation because it is complex. The Middle East is something that is very difficult to try to understand as an outsider. And then lastly, I think that people just need to, especially if you're in the West, just stand with the West, you know, love your culture, love your country, you know, the nations that you were born in, you know, value your families, care for one another. And when difficulty comes, you know, don't cower down from it, stand together. You know, we have governments that are not doing the right thing, for instance, in London, in Europe, that, you know, just really going against the public and really killing their own cultures. And I think that these people, there's some very brave individuals in London that are protesting or taking their voice to the streets and saying, you know, we love the UK and we want to see it saved. We want to see it thriving and prosperous. And same thing with America. I think that for the most part, I think that I would hope to believe that the average American loves their country and wants to see it safe and secure. But at the same time, you know, you've got tremendous challenges, and it's not the time to sit and shy away from everything. I think a lot of people want to do that. They want to shy away from hearing difficult topics because they've got their lives and they focus on their families and their job. I think even if they could start even just discussions, listen to spaces like this, listen to some other podcasts, try to get involved even just at a conversational level and try to educate yourself so that you're aware of what's happening and you don't just sit in front of a TV and swallow mainstream media and then you're going to be lost because, you know, anti-Semitism is growing like that and people need to help one another. They need to stand up and protect, like you said. Sorry, I know I'm talking long. I'll try and land my plane here. But we saw that this is the second attack that's taken place, the arson attack in the UK. Second attack in a very short space of time. And those communities should rally behind the Jewish community and say to them, you know, we see you, we will come, we will help you, we will try and keep you secure and not accept that type of behavior. You know, otherwise it will fall. Because like you said, the Jewish people will go back to Israel. They have a home and they will go back and they will leave these countries to fend for themselves. And those are dark days. We've seen in history that's exactly what happens. And it's repeating itself. So people, now's the time to really wake up, pay attention and speak up. You know, thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
This is the time now. I'd like to refer to any Americans here or in the future listening to me. I realize that there are some Americans even here, because I check everybody's account that comes to my spaces, that they say, why should we help Israel? Those people are a little bit clueless. Why? Because they need to know geopolitics. US is a big nation. As a nation, it has to have an ally anywhere in the world. So the best ally, the only ally that the US has in the Middle East is Israel. The only ally. Even now, as we speak, okay, you have Qataris ruining the universities, the next generation. You have Iranians having dormant cells. The Muslim Brotherhood are in the US. So wake up, people. Israel is the only ally of the US. Only.
Yep.
So they have to work together. And Trump and Bibi are a good team. And I'd like to just end the space with God bless Israel. God bless the state of America. And Am Yisrael Chai.